Oh man, it hit the countdown. Damn it, I missed it. I did no Klingon circling Uranus this time.
There we go, $20. Woot woot.
Yep. The mug came in and arrived in record time, and actually, it's pretty styling.
Is that the metal one?
It is. It's all metal. It's insulated. The one thing it doesn't have like a rubber base on the bottom. Some of them do, so I'll add that, and that makes a little bit of a difference. So it's not so slidey. And
hey, hold on. I
got,
actually was working on this guy right here, Lawrence Schoen. Hey man, I got a question to you out in Slack, just so you know. totally using this general conversation for a business related purpose.
Yeah. Here we are. I'm coming to you live. Saturday. It's Saturday. I think. I actually thought it was Wednesday earlier this week, but earlier this morning. But it's not. It's Saturday. Coming to you live from the subarctic. I have my curtain closed because it's kind of dark outside now, a little overcast, and we have darkness now. It's just all of a sudden now, hey, look at that. It's dark at night. Anyway, where are you coming to us from, Michael?
I am in Henderson, which is to the southeast of the Strip. I'm about 25 minutes away from the condo, the Cave in the Sky. So not that far. Still very hot.
Still, it is not here. It is mid 60s, high 40s at night. And although it's raining today, this is the first day it's really rained in August, and the rest of August looks like no rain. Usually it rains all of August, and it gets cold. It's different up here because the sun gets farther away, and usually August is our rainy and cold month as it transitions to fall. The rest of you go down to the United States, the lower 48, and August is when it gets really hot. No, that's when it cools off up here. So June and July are our hot months, but July it rained almost every day, so it's just little turnabout this year.
Yeah, I don't remember if I mentioned it on this particular show or it's just I talked with you or whatever, but Lynn Stigler, the editor of All Things, was telling me that down where she's at, which is only about an hour away from me, that it was monsoon season, and I couldn't fathom this because I know she's in desert, and I'm like, what is she talking about? She goes, yeah, it's 10 to 20% chance of rain for the next week and a half. That's monsoon season. Like, oh, I get that now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to coming to Vegas. Alaska has just instituted if you're not from Alaska, don't come here. Otherwise, you have to pay $250 to have a COVID test when you get here, and you have to quarantine at your cost until you get the results back. So they said if you're not from Alaska, pretty much don't come.
What the hell, man?
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going back to Iowa in less than a month.
Oh yeah. So what's Iowa? Is Iowa going to make you
the family reunion? So
yeah, but how are you going to? I mean, does Iowa have these things going on?
No, Iowa's considered one of the heathen states. I think that and South Dakota are both. We're not playing by anybody else's rules, so I can fly all the way. Sure, I'll take. So as far as risk and exposure, that will be as much as I'm going to get, even though I'll wear a mask and all that stuff. But anyway, I'll be traveling in less than a month, and we'll see how it goes. And then coming to Vegas in October.
Yes, where we were supposed to enjoy the priest. That is not going to happen.
Yeah, Judas Priest for your mental health. So, mental health. Oh, and that's a completely different band. So here we are. We're going to talk about emotional impacts on authors. Something Michael wanted to talk about when we chatted yesterday about whether we want to do the show or not. And so, what were your thoughts that brought this about, Michael?
Well, it's a little bit a few different things. I mean, we went off on the tangent that as creatives, there are many different ways that we try to keep our emotions in check. And for a few of them that I work with, there's different aspects of it. So whether or not, let's say your family supports you, a lot of times it's that, you're just writing stories and they don't give you any credit for what you're doing. And then should your stories start to actually sell, then it turns around to, well, you can't make a living out of that for a lot of people. And so there's a lot of negative stuff. And so we tend to then start looking for our tribe, and our tribe helps going, hey, that's a way to do it. Write another book. This is great. And then you start having that feeling of belonging, but then invariably someone comes along that either for whatever reason, maybe they have good reasons, maybe they're just a selfish bloke, who knows, but they say something that brings you back down again. And you and I spoke about it yesterday, Craig. I mean, we kind of went all over the place, but at the end, the solution, which I think that we'll talk about as well, relates to only look at it to yourself, only compare yourself to yourself. I made the comment that one of the nicest weeks I've had was when Amazon dropped what is your author ranking? And
Yep.
even though I was trying not to pay any more attention to it, it was like an annoying gnat in the back of my mind because I am a fairly aggressive individual when it comes to um, just seeing what's going on, and it affected me too much.
Well,
And
in the
so that's kind of the
competition,
start. Yeah, the competition
you're
thing.
top 100, and
Yeah, and so it was, even though I had mentioned like a year and a half before that I was going to drop down and probably drop out of the top 100 based on things that we were doing in our company, I hadn't yet. And so and so that was almost like still a millstone around my neck going, well, I'm still there, because in my heyday, I was between 18 and 24 on average in the top 100. And then by the time that they dropped it, I think I was probably between 45 on really good days and 60. So, I'd kind of dropped mostly into the bottom 50, and then they dropped it entirely, and it was an emotional weight off of my shoulders to not even to know that it wasn't even there anymore.
yeah, well, because it changed nothing that you were doing with your business.
Yeah, yeah,
And
you
that's,
know.
I mean, for me, being a science fiction author, one of the things that I liked was being with other science fiction authors, guys I could talk to online. And we lost the ranking, and I'm like, oh man, I was 1,095. I think I hit 1,095 just over 3 years in the top 100 science fiction without a single day outside of the top 100. And I like that. And it's like, okay, because you see people come and go, and hey, great. I mean, the highest I ever got to was 7. And so that means 6 people were in front of me, and good for them. And but when I hit 7, I was there for a good old a full day, and then down to 11, and generally I was top 50 is all. And so there were a lot of people who came and went on the list, and but I was still there. And it's like, okay, hey, when you come, you get your picture. Hey, I'm in front of Craig Martelle. Yeah, then you're sharing my picture with your fans, saying, hey, look at this guy who's perpetually here. So if they haven't tried my stuff, maybe they would. So from that point, but still, it was quite the ego blow, saying. We're not going to do this anymore. I'm like, oh man, my streak, my streak. Even though I know it would still be intact because I've had some good releases this year that have done well, and but the most important measure, the dipstick that goes into the oil tank of my bank, is sound, and that is it relieves you to focus on your business, which of course that goes back to the very first thing. What do you want to accomplish as an author?
hmm Yeah, there was, for me, I always go back. I want books that my fans will want to reread and to make money. That's my personal, and that's why when, created 20 books to 50K, I didn't want to do anything related to, did I write a good book? There are thousands of both books and places and things for people to get involved in. That wasn't what I was interested in talking about. I was interested in talking about business and sharing the things that worked. Unfortunately, there's a lot of little mines along the way of being a successful author that, trip you up and can really mess up your day. And the emotional aspect of it, I find, is something that can take, I can be having a good day and one small thing happens and my emotions are shot. It messes up my writing, it messes up my thinking, it messes up my process, it messes up. And so it's been an ongoing effort to try to understand, how do you create the willpower to not think about these things? What are the tricks that you can possibly use? And then also just what is the attitude change? I've spoken multiple times that back in the summer of 2016, I was really getting kind of depressed, and the reason was because there was a huge group of those that came in at the same time I did. They were all going for getting their letters, and the term "getting your letters" is usually like New York Times bestseller, USA Today bestseller, those letters. And they were all going for it. And it was really hyped on, all of the different areas that indie authors were at, and I wasn't a part of it. and then I finally had to realize, and I can kind of remember coming down the stairs. This is back when I lived in Texas, thinking, wait a minute, that's never been a big deal for me. I've never wanted my letters. It'd be nice if I had them. I'm not going to throw them away, but I'm not going to aggressively go for them. And so from that perspective, like, wait a minute, so I'm being depressed. I'm allowing my emotional um, ship to be moved around on the winds of something that has nothing to do with me. So just by changing my attitude from that almost that moment, it never bothered me again, where it had been bothering me for weeks and affecting me. And so just coming from that perspective and coming at, people are going to come at you. They could be jealous. I mean, we have seen some individuals who, quite frankly, um, their methods of trying to compete are highly questionable when it comes to using emotional aspects. And, you know, good, bad, and different. However, I'm not judging, I am judging what they're doing. And I'm not saying why they're doing it. I'm merely judging what they're doing. To take down somebody else and hurt them emotionally is not, in my opinion, a viable methodology one should use.
That's
It's
right,
that's
and we've seen authors weaponize their readers against
hmm
other authors, especially based on false information. Hey, your title is the same as mine. You stole my book. Readers, go get them, one star them. And it's like, oh man, that's really really poor form, and it reflects more on the author. And that's how I insulate myself against one-star reviews. Is that uh, I read it looking at, oh, this is just an angry person. It really doesn't reflect on my book. Maybe they shouldn't have picked up my book. I put the disclaimers in there, thanks to you, with the there may be swearing in here. If a disclaimer's in the blurb and then they give me a 1 star because I have swearing in my books, that's not on me. And those are great ads anyway. So
you're one of the first ones I know who took a 1 star review and made it a winning ad.
winning ad, hugely winning ad. Um, but looking at the fully half of the reviews, 1 star reviews I get are people who are just angry at everything. Probably nothing would make them happy. So consequently, I'm not going to make them happy with anything I write. So it's okay. You just absorb that. And then the other half are there was something they didn't like in there, or they shouldn't have gotten the book because they weren't my target audience. And now I
Yeah,
can learn from that stuff. If it's not my target audience, okay, hey, we've had 1 star reviews that brought up this issue. Okay, now let's fade away from that and target a different readership, and that's easy. You just adjust course, and as long as you're appealing to enough readers that the books continue to sell, it you're okay. But that goes back to your initial mindset of what am I trying to accomplish as an author, and if you're trying to accomplish a continual stroking by happy readers, you're going to be really disappointed because you're going to fail. So I would
but
recommend.
Craig, it's so that's just what we do when we start,
It's
right? Because
intoxicating.
well, it is intoxicating. That's what I was telling you yesterday. It's like go back to 2015, 2016 when we started this. I mean, we're 800 books. I don't have the same jazz anymore when a book gets published, you know. But I still remember the things that caused me to go and lose time, right? Lose time where we say we're over here playing because not because it's putting out more books, but because we as individuals often, especially authors, when we find a cohort that believes as us, believes the same as us, and all of a sudden we're getting our ego and our id supported, that is incredibly intoxicating. And it's actually challenging to start recognizing that in order for you to move ahead, you need to stop paying attention to others and how you're doing better than them. That's usually when it's when, or if you're doing worse, then now you're depressed. And it's like, see if you can pull yourself out of that is the encouragement. I stopped getting on Facebook because I had too much damn work. And occasionally I would recognize what was going on with me, whether it was, I was seeing something, they're having great success. I'm happy for them. That's just my natural personality to be happy for someone to have success. And then, of course, invariably, it's I'm on top of Michael Anderle. I'm like, really? you know? And then I was like, wait a minute. How can I live? How can I understand their moment of opportunity? That this is now, I talked to you yesterday and I said, I can understand it because what would happen if I was on top of J.K. Rowling? You know,
Yeah.
and then I would recognize that and I go, okay, I get it. But as a normal human being, because I don't know that a lot of people realize, it's not like I've been in writing for a lot of years. At that moment, 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe tops, that I had even written books and released them. So I was still quite a bit the baby
Yeah.
in the publishing industry before next thing you know, Michael Anderle says he was but it's just the understanding. So Craig, go back to that time. Why? Help me as a person who is going through those emotions in the beginning to try to be able to pull out and focus on my business, which helps me emotionally, not the comparisonitis.
This is where, as you grow up in the business and grow up, I mean, we've had 5 full years in the business, so I mean, we're old
Oh
veterans, right?
man.
Now, and indies have been around for 10 years. Started at the heyday, 2011, 2012.
Hmm.
Some of them seem fairly jaded, but they're also fairly successful because they continue to do what made them successful, write the books that the readers like. So this is where recognizing your core readership, those readers who are following you, if you're making them happy, then that should be the sufficient dopamine hit. You shouldn't need an extra 1,000, an extra 10,000 fans buttering your muffin. That core, keep your core readership happy, and also you're going to develop a new group of friends. Because I
Hmm.
know you'll call me and bring up a thing, and then I'll bring up a thing, and I'm like, oh man, you can't believe this bullshit that happened today, and and we lament, and then we move on.
Yeah.
And that's one thing with this uh, business that we're in, the self-publishing industry. You gain a new group of peers
Hmm.
that you can share with. And this is one thing I would caution people significantly: get on the phone and lament. Don't go online,
Yes.
even in a private group with 5 people. That shit's going to get out, especially if you're going after somebody like, hey, J.K. Rowling, oh my God, let me. And you, it gets out, and all of a sudden it finds out that the source material was wrong or something like that. All of a sudden you're going to look like a jag. And this is where not taking a position can also be taking a position,
Yeah.
because I've been targeted, I've been threatened because of not taking a position. It's like 20 books to 50K. We would just want to help people sell books. But you can influence. Yes, of course we can influence, but focus on what you're trying to accomplish. And that's, if you start, it's called, in the military, it was called mission creep. Hey, we're going to go do this one thing. And then they're like, hey, while you're over there, can you do this other thing? And then do this other thing. And then all of a sudden, you don't have any idea what you're doing at all. And you can't accomplish your main mission because you're pulled so many different directions.
Hmm.
Mission creep. Don't let it happen to your business. And when we're on 20 books of 50K, it's 20 books of 50K business, which is the business of being an indie. How can you sell one more book ethically, clear, good, happy,
Hmm.
all of that stuff? I have
Yeah.
people, I mean, everybody, the whole industry knows about Mark Dawson bought 400 books for readers in the United States. And somebody messaged me last night saying, see, does this change your opinion of them? And I'm like, fuck no. Because it was all above board. And it's just part of that dynamic of people trying to tear other people down. There's no reason for it, and it doesn't make you feel better. This is the big point. If you're saying, well, this person did this, can you do
I'm
that?
okay
And
now.
can you sleep with yourself knowing that this other person did that? And if you did that, can you look yourself in the mirror? And that's not because, hey, I've got a nice mirror, because, hey, that shady thing made me a lot of money. No, no. And this this is where, uh, as an indie, it's just you. So you have to let your conscience be your guide, right? No, not like you've ever heard that before, but it's, you really have to be able to live with yourself. And especially since a lot of our existence, once you become a public figure as an author, your existence then becomes public, and people start digging into your business. So this is where it's really important to
Have you
make
ever
sure your business is clean.
have you ever Googled yourself and had it come up as what is Craig Martelle's net worth?
I have not.
Yeah, so I was looking at Michael Anderle one time, and one of the Googles is, what is Michael Anderle's net worth? And I'm like, the hell?
How do I know that?
Yeah,
Let me look that up.
yeah, really, really. But it shows that enough people are Googling that in order
Yeah.
for Google to believe that is a viable item, and that is an odd thing to realize as what I would consider a normal human being. You know, still put pants on one leg at a time, folks. And then so what
I can
are
tell you
some
what that one's about.
why? What do you mean?
People don't think you're real.
That I don't. Oh, you mean that I have like I'm pushing
That you
something?
have been that successful. So it's like, oh, and this is things I give because somebody will pop up and make a hey, you should do this. And my first thought is I usually don't take advice on selling books from people who don't sell
Don't
any
sell
books.
books. Yeah, yeah. No, well, okay. That's a very valid point. Um, uh, as we've discussed for years, one of the reasons that I don't do any nonfiction is because I'm fucking lazy. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't want someone saying, "Hey, I bought your product XYZ and it doesn't work." When in reality, A, I never specify it's going to work for everybody. B, you got to work your rear off. There are all sorts of things. But I'm like, if I never charge people, guess what? I don't ever have to answer for it. It's like
Yeah.
I'm letting you know what's worked for me. That's it. And so, there's been a lot of freedom with that. And we focus on what we've always said. We focus on selling books. That's what we do. The only reason I remember you getting into nonfiction was because the answers were there and you're freaking tired of telling people and copy and pasting. you know,
Yeah. Yeah, and instead of typing it again in Facebook, I just copied an old post and copied until I had the bare bones of a book, and then I filled in the gaps in between, and all of a sudden, hey, publish it. And then it answered a lot of questions. It saved a lot of grief for me. So yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
what I
you
did,
kind of
and
fell into
it's
your
serious.
situation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Comparisonitis related to how fast or how much you type and or write. How many people have cratered with that over the years? Without, no pointing, but I got to talk about it. I mean, it was one of those things back in 2016, whenever I said, I'd put out 5 books in 3 months, and I was looking at putting out 20 books, and someone was, cautioning me. It was like, that's, you're only going to hurt yourself. And over time, now when it first was suggested, I got a little irritated because that's just my personality, which is don't tell me something I can't do. I'll do it, and I did. But I also have done enough of them to see the wisdom of what they were trying to tell me. If I had just a little less of this, I would have cratered. I would have had that problem. And so now, even inside the company, we encourage people. It's like, look, somewhere between books 3 and 5, typically book 4 or book 5, most people crater from the standpoint of their brain needs a break. you know so don't keep pushing. Just be wise, be one of those people who don't try to go out and run a marathon and screw up your legs. Go there, go a little slower. But if you can do it, and there are some who can write 5 million words before it even they're even phased whatsoever, fantastic. But guess what? It's about your race, your words per hour, your words per day, words per week, and the books you put out, not what somebody else does. We have enough history and knowledge and just data inside of LMBPN to point out you could have one book series that's doing 100,000 a month, right? Or you could have 30 book series that do $100,000 a month. Either way, it's $100,000, but there's a vast difference between how it connected. So just be
Yeah.
aware there are so many ways to get to $100,000 a year. $5,000 a month, $300 a month. It doesn't matter to me. The question is it making you happy? Are you supplying some, are you hitting your mountain? And that's it. Keep it focused on you. It's when you look elsewhere. Use it if you want to for saying, hey, I know someone has done 20,000 words a day. I have not. I petered out at 19,480. So it's always one of those things. If I get around Kevin McLaughlin, I'm like, you bastard. you know? But once again, that competitive spirit, right? But I'm aware it can be done. It what I had never desired to hit 100,000 a month until we had one of our friends actually mention that's what he wanted to accomplish. And that was what put the seed of, can it be done? I had
Oh yeah,
never considered it plausible until he said that. And so, allow it to encourage you, but then focus on yourself.
that's right. What works for you? Because I had a 5,000 word day just a few days ago, and hey, it was cool. It was a scene that I knew I was comfortable with, and I wrote it out. And then the next day I had like a 300 word day. Okay, well, it happens. But as long as I write every day, and this is the main thing, I just need to write every day, and they'll even out. I've got 13 days to deliver the end of the story to Lynn, and that means I need to have it done in about a week. And
She's in a monsoon. Don't worry about it.
I'm at 47,000 words. My target is 60, so I think I'll be fine.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the final scene's right fast. But the important point is work within yourself. It kind of bummed me a little bit to only get a few hundred words, but I had so much other stuff going on. I mean, with the conference and we're up to, I think we're down to 780, 770 uh, attendees who are supposed to be there. I mean, there are a number of people who uh, just donated their conference fee. They're still on the roster, and we'll send them their swag. I think there's about 50 of those, but still looking at those numbers, and I started with 1,600, and especially having some advertisers pull out, as well as some. Everybody is very supportive, and I don't want anybody to feel bad about canceling or moving on. But still, looking at all of that, so I need to completely rebuild the schedule. We got people will be afraid, and we still have to. We're still going to pull off this conference. Well, why don't you just cancel it? Just because I'm not an advocate of you have to hide in your home for the rest of your life, kind of thing. It will have been a long time by November. Some people have been in their houses for 8 months straight, and that's a long time. That's a long time. A hermit lifestyle is not one that I'm going to choose to live.
yeah. It's one of those things that when we say that everybody has the right to live their life, I support those who are staying home. I
Yes.
totally support them. So, I believe they probably have a courage I lack, the ability to stay in a place that is driving me freaking bonkers. So, I encourage and I see it, but at the same time, I already live here in Vegas. It's really easy for me to go down because you know what? I'm going to go to a casino between now and November. I guarantee it. So that's not going to, I'm not personally, changing my life from like coming out just to go do this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
once again, we're adults. At the end of the day, I would prefer you to be safer for you than anything else.
Yeah. It's being responsible for your own decisions. This is one thing that we've advocated on 20 Books of 50K constantly. Is you need to do what's right for you and take responsibility for that. But that also means that when you're successful, it's 100% because of you.
Yeah. Don't
Yes,
let
we
others
surround
grab
ourselves.
your, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We surround ourselves with good people, but still, it's you. And this is the indie industry. There's other people trying to take credit for people's success, and that's not cool. I remember some people tried to take credit for your success, and that wasn't cool at all. It's like, no, Michael Anderle is Michael Anderle is responsible for Michael Anderle's success. And
Yeah, I didn't. I don't. If it's the one I'm thinking of, I didn't react to that too well.
no, and why would you? Why would you? Because there's other people telling you that, hey, it wasn't you. You didn't build this, and that's not something that. But you did build it, so that's
Well, it's you bring up a really interesting point, Craig. Success or non-success, there are people whose responsibility in life is to make themselves feel better, and if it's at the cost of you, they are okay with it either because they think of it that way or they just don't even realize what they're doing.
yeah,
If you go back to books, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, 1935, Ford, one of the biggest things they say in one of the last chapters is get people who are negative or cause you negative emotions out of your life. And I personally went through something my brother was doing about 8 years ago, and it was a revelation to me that I had the authority and the responsibility to get people who were negative about life in general, because it wasn't necessarily me always, just they were negative about life. But I had the right to not be around them because I felt like somehow I needed to help them to get better, that it was my responsibility. It was the world was on my shoulders, and how are they going to survive if I'm not there taking their crap? And it took, I was 50, 40 something, when that happened. And it was a revelation at 40 something. That's too damned old to realize they are adults and they are doing nothing more than causing their own harm. I have a responsibility to my family, my kids, to be as optimistic as I possibly can. And that means that they need to go deal with their own stuff. My responsibility is mine. And that includes you first and foremost.
And that's uh, removing toxic people from your life is a challenge, because some of those toxic people are relations, and that's rough. And that was one thing when I embarked on this journey. It's like, I'm just going to do it. I told my wife, we had that little issue with the where she read one thing on my screen and kind of got a little bit upset because I did model a character after her and then killed that character. So we don't want to do that. Don't let her read it. I mean, you can do it. I mean, you're an author, right? Write how you need to write, but then don't show it to her.
But you didn't. That's what makes it so funny. It was just on your screen.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The universe.
But removing so I didn't really tell anything, and then I told my dad. I'm like, hey, I got a book, and he said, I'd love to read it. And I'm like, yeah, my dad, sure. So I sent it to him, and he's like, I love this. Let me buy 50 copies of it. And then all of a sudden, I had written 20 books, 25 books. And my dad called me. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm at your brother's house, and he's got your book. He wonders when the next one's coming out." I'm like, "My brother's reading my books." He's like, "Oh yeah, he loves them." And so he got on the phone. He's like, "Yeah, I love this story. Hey, I'm like, "Oh my God!" And now he's one of my biggest fans. And my brother, who was always, 8 years older than me, always critical of everything I did ever, and then he likes my book. So yeah, I got that support. There's some people whose spouses, they never give them the support, and you're still trying to write, and that's a challenge, especially when you're climbing up towards making full-time money, because otherwise it's just a hobby, or while you're building your foundation. And I'd like to say I know how to handle that, but I don't, except that now you've got to find approval somewhere, because everybody needs some kind of approval. There may be that rare person out there who's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I don't care if anybody approves. No, everybody needs some kind of approval. And these are how you get these terrorist groups, because they just find people who, hey, we're going to all approve of each other, even though what we're going to do is heinous, but we're our tight group and only we matter. Well, we do that with our indies, like Friends with Michael. Hey, Michael, I could talk about anything. Like the benefits of not driving 100 miles an hour on a Nevada interstate or a highway, which that will provide good humor forever for me and Mike Bray, by the way, but probably not Michael.
Yeah. That story was told the other day about how long it took the cop to catch up to us. Because they were coming the opposite direction and flipped to you, and I'm like, there's a cop like way back there.
But finding that approval, and this is as an author, and we started the MVP threads, and you find people of a like ilk. I mean, you're not going to bare your soul on the first day, but at some point in time, you're going to be talking with these people, and you're going to get closer and closer, and you're going to move forward together. Don't be competitive. Just share and move on. But get your approval. Find where approval matters to you personally, without it being, because there's some people, they need that approval, and that's some people stay in toxic relationships way too long because hey, nobody else approves of me. I kind of get it every now and then here, so that's it. And that it's destructive. That's probably a destructive thing in society as a whole. is
Yeah.
the inability to extricate oneself from a toxic relationship. And as an indie, it's challenging because everything you do is online. It's especially now. I mean, even more so than when it was the conventions were happening and conferences and stuff. Now it's all here.
Yeah, there are down days. Like, one of the things I guess I wanted to mention or was thinking about yesterday when you and I were talking about this is it is beneficial sometimes for me to realize that those that I have on pedestals above me have bad days, bad weeks, bad whatever, just crap situations occur. And what they do is they react to these situations like a human would. We all are human, no matter our success, no matter what else goes on. You have those situations where you thought you had this figured out, and then you realize that what you said and what they heard were two different things, you know, which is obviously the reason for legal agreements so that you both put it on paper and both can agree that's what it means. But having said that, there are just other things where you thought you were helping someone, and actually what they wanted you to do is listen, not tell you how to fix it. And so you only
Yep.
made it worse, you know? And so
Yep.
texting doesn't, I had a situation yesterday where I reacted to something that was being said, and the thing that was being said was, and to some degree, positive, but it stressed me out. It's like all of a sudden I felt I had a shiitake ton of new work I had to do when I wasn't expecting that, and added to the stuff I already had to do, and I kind of didn't react well. And so I had to go to another person and go, hey, I screwed this up. Can you figure out how I set this off? And now I'm feeling bad because it wasn't my intention to set,
Yeah.
but it just went down and we got it fixed. But man, that was kind of sucked. And so
Yeah.
you have bad days. It's definitely not all butterflies and birds chirping.
Oh, and that's it. And that's it. And the worst part is once you say something and somebody hears it a certain way, and they get upset, and then you're like, oh my god, I can see how you heard how that sounded, and you apologize, and it's
And
really important.
then they don't allow you to apologize. They hold it. Now what,
they
Mr.
they
Martell?
they want to get their pound of flesh, and that actually makes me angry. It's like, just accept my apology, let's move on,
Hmm.
because I can do nothing. I can't go back in time and not say it. And this is something, when people refuse to let somebody apologize, that burns up inside. You can't, that then you become that toxic person.
Hmm.
You have to have some forgiveness, and this is important. And I know I've held decades, held grudges for decades. And I have ex-wives, man. You go with the flow here.
I think ex-spouses are in their own category.
So yeah, I've held grudges and you know what? It didn't make me feel any better. It's better
Yeah.
just say, hey, that's it, and move on. And it's not like forgiving your abuser. That's a different thing completely. I mean, this is just, hey, you said something, and that's not really what you meant, but you know that's what it sounded like, and so don't. Or you just said something mean to be mean, and we've all done that. And you apologize, you accept it, and you get better. And that's all you can do. You can't go back in time. So
Yeah.
holding something against somebody, that only is going to tear you up.
Well, it also only gives not even them, because frankly, most often they don't have a clue what's going on. They're happy
Yeah.
in their life and moving forward. And you have a tie to something that's going on that's hurting you, not the other person. That's the whole genesis behind allowing, you to forgive others isn't about them. It's really about you. So, but going back to the emotions of the indie world itself, the comparisonitis that is out there. What is
Yeah.
your rank? How many words do you do? How many books do you do? Are you number one over me? Is your cover better than me? How come I can't get editing this? It's all about you with you. That's it.
That's
How
right.
can I make my book, the next one, a little better by maybe looking at this one who I really appreciate their cover? What is it about that cover that I think is really fantastic? That
Yep.
they got lucky. Who cares? What it happens is it's kind of like I would look at it as going up a mountain. Someone went up that mountain and created a trail to show you how it's easier, how it's better, how it's faster. Are you going to be bitchy about it because they went there first? Or are you going to be happy that you didn't break your leg putting it in the wrong crevice? I suggest we be happy that the person went ahead of us and show
Well,
us how to make it a little faster. Go ahead.
and you've got imagine, if you will, a sidewalk, and it goes to the corner and then goes right, and you see that people have worn a path.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now you have, here's by design, and here's the user experience. So, and then you see a secondary path after a big puddle, and so you see that way around. It's like, hey, this is what we're talking about here, and the being yourself is really important. Tearing other people down accomplishes nothing, and this
And
big
that's just personal.
kerfluffle.
It doesn't
It's
matter that you did it online. Most of us don't. We don't put it online. But in our mind, for us to feel better that we did or didn't accomplish something, we feel like we have to compare to say that we did better than them or they did better because they did this. Just don't. It's only you with you, and that's it. If we
put
can get to that point, your life will be at least more enjoyable.
put your goal someplace where you can refer to it. What is your goal? And then what are the steps toward that goal? And if your goal is to be a million seller, well, you're going to have a lot of sub steps to that. But if your goal is to manage your indie business, well, then you can do that every single day. And if your goal is to build a brand, and this is one thing that I kind of, in the back of my mind, that's what I was trying to do, was build a brand of Craig Martelle, not this one series, because some
Hmm.
people have they live their whole life on one series. And you've got the Dresden Files. Hey, great Jim Butcher. I mean, there it is. That series is blockbuster. He's got
Hmm.
some other stuff, I think, but it really
I don't
goes
know.
down to the Dresden Files. And
And
this
he's a
is
neat guy, just for
and
those who want
and
to be
Jim
jealous of
Butcher's
him.
a good guy. So,
Yeah.
but still, understand what you want to do. And if for me, I want to write all different kinds of stuff, so I really don't want to wrap myself into just one series. And it's good that people who think of me as the Terry Henry Walton guy have gone beyond that and read my free trader stuff, and have read my judge, jury, and executioner stuff, and then say, hey, I like these stories. Then it comes back to me as the brand, and then me as the brand also goes to the 20 books to 50K, above board, write stories, doesn't do anything shady. I mean, I'm sure people will make up stuff, but it's awards are toxic, and that's a danger, is going for those awards, especially if you're above board. It because it just it no matter what you do, it's going to look shady to somebody. So the best thing to do is just do nothing. I mean, I did push for the Dragon this year, and I'm surprised that the finalists haven't been announced yet. But I said, this is the last year. I'm not going to push for any more awards. I'm not going to do any of that, because that kind of detracts from my brand. Of
Is it stressful? Was it
it
emotionally
adds
stressful?
stress that you don't need. Exactly. I would rather be I would rather my brand, instead of this award winner, be, I'm the guy who runs these conferences. That's a brand that I like. That's a brand that provides some good positive energy to me, and the conferences themselves are incredibly positive and supportive. I mean, they are an emotional rush, seeing people get things from the conferences. Not me personally, not me standing on a pedestal glowing golden. It's seeing how happy people are, seeing how good people treat each other,
Hmm.
and seeing the quality of the content and the quality of the conversations in the hallway. That is the biggest rush of all.
Hmm. And that's pretty amazing. And thank you. And by the way, for the person that says I'm such a people pleaser, that actually has been my personality, that I just want everybody to be happy. And that's kind of like I derived a lot of dopamine hits with everybody being happy. The challenge was and is, in time, not everyone is going to be happy, and those that were quote happy will have the ability to get jealous or whatever. We don't know people's lives. I don't like to try to say that it was all negative and that it was because someone was a bad person. Could just be their life happened. And from that perspective, I had to start realizing that I can't have my day be fantastic if I depend on everyone else having a fantastic day. And the older I get, now I'm 52ish, the older I get, and then all of a sudden you start realizing the fewer days you have, well, hopefully it's still 50 years, 30 years, whatever. You still hope it's a lot of time, but the reality is you start thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to get rid of shit that isn't going to make the rest of my days beneficial.
Yep.
And emotions are the things that I'm really struggling with, both because of what we came through with COVID, both because I have had to deal with a lot of legal stuff, and none of those things are fun. They're not creative. They're debilitating at a certain level because a lot of times no one comes away happy. The opposite of people pleaser. It's like, but I'm having to mature and quote grow up and realize I have to take on those things that I don't want to in order for all of us to move ahead.
I think you really need to learn to embrace a really sexy contract.
There is no fucking such thing as a sexy contract, Martelle. Only you, lawyer, for those who don't know, would sit here and actually look at his laugh. I mean,
Oh
God.
my God. Love a good sexy contract.
Oh my goodness. So while he's drinking, I wish I could say something to make him spew at the moment. But the ability to make yourself happy, to worst enemy, right? The worst enemy and that challenge of doing that in our lives is something that fortunately for us in the indie, we actually can say it's not helpful. We know that there's success. The question is merely which of the ways up the mountain will work for me and my personality and the stories I write, because my path doesn't work for everybody whatsoever. Some it has, some it hasn't. And we've seen things where people are, can't work in Kindle Unlimited, but they go over to Wide and they kill it,
Yeah.
And so we've seen enough times to know, do we believe that this industry, indie publishing in general, writing your own books, is capable of making successes happen? The answer is yes. We've seen enough of it across genres. Do we
Yeah.
have all of the answers? No. And the answers we had 6 months ago might not work anymore. You know,
Yeah.
that
But
that's
this is
go ahead.
what you're talking about is us trying to help other people. And then, and it still gets back to us.
Hmm.
Are we emotionally sound enough? Are we satisfied with what we're doing enough to keep pressing forward with our own businesses?
Hmm.
And this is, I mean, I put in a fair amount of time on 20 books of 50K. Well, a full-time job. Between that and the conferences, it's well over 2,000 hours a year. And then, oh, by the way, I write my own books too. The lockdown and not traveling offered me a lot of time to write books. So I'm kind of ahead of schedule. So I committed to more books, which actually that may not have been the best choice now that I'm going to start traveling again. So we'll get there eventually.
Well, you even said the other day you were talking about it's like, the last LMBPN book is about to be finished or whatever. And it's like, I told you, I go, I don't know whether to be happy that you brought everything in early and that's amazing, or sad that it's the last one this year. You're leaving me
Yeah.
confused emotionally, Martelle.
Well, I finished 5 series
Yeah.
uh, of LMBPN books, but Judge, Jury, and Executioner will continue. It's just that book is the last one because I need to get those thrillers as I try to, we don't do anything half-assed around here. So, coming in with 3 books, Stuart Batch covers, and professionally read and canvassed a number of big thriller authors who have been very forthcoming and in reading the book. So, got some good quotes, got some good support. So, I mean, but not doing it half-assed, not throwing a single book out there, and that's our style. Other people, 2 books a year, 1 book a year, great. I mean, don't put yourself into the conundrum of, hey, that's how they do it, and that's our path. There are other paths because you can go straight up the mountain, or you can go around in a circle and take it a little bit at a time. It's all good. It's whatever works best for you. And this is the big thing: comparisonitis, as Michael said. You don't. It will be destructive unless you personally know that this motivates me in a different way. And that's that how you motivate yourself is very personal. So you do what you need to do. Read the success posts. This is a great thing. I love seeing those on 20 books of 50K. Hey, my first $100 month. That is
Yes.
great
I
because you
love
know what?
those.
If you'd never have that first $100 month, then you can't have your first $1,000 month. And so it's you celebrate that. You celebrate those steps as you're climbing upward.
One thing that so in the beginning I often would put out you know, where we were, right? And it became a challenge for me personally to do that because it was shutting people down, you know. And so we just stopped doing it, because the reality is I want you to get started. I want you to make a change in your life that is going to help you emotionally. It's going to allow you to get your creativity out. It's going to allow you to learn to be at a point where if I sit down and write my ass off for a weekend and I get a short story, then maybe I have 700 extra dollars in 2 months, you know. And that is something that just amazed me in the beginning because I looked around and I'm go, well, I could sit on my butt and read 5 books, or I could write this book and get it out there and get a cover and sell it, and I've got enough to buy a laptop in 4 months. I can materially affect my future by
Yeah.
doing this. And that was, for me personally, it was an amazing understanding.
Well, and when we read other books, also, we don't need to go and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe this book is so bad," and they're making so much money. Comparisonitis again. Don't do that. Just look at it and say, okay, why? Like you talked about with covers, why is this book selling so well? Why is this prose, which I
Hmm.
consider offensive, why is it so effective with the readership?
Yeah.
And then when you dissect it into the business elements, then you take and look at your stuff and say, okay, why is my stuff not selling? Here I have this great first book, I get great reviews, but nobody reads the second book. Well, then that's an issue. There's something with the book that's not resonating and bringing people along for the ride. And this is either you lost them somewhere because you didn't set the hook of getting them on your email list for whenever you got that second book out, or there's something wrong with the story. And this is where once you have your insiders and your insider trusted group, you try to dissect those elements of your business with your business hat on, not your emotionally, oh my God, people hate my book hat, which some people, it's really big, and it has bananas and feathers and stuff hanging out of it, and they really take great pride in building that hat bigger and better on the suffering artist. Put that hat
Yeah.
aside, put on the cheesy little business hat, and say, why is this? And let me fix it for the next book. And then you move forward, and all of a sudden, hey, look at that! Hey, people like me again.
So we have a few comments related to the statement about like no one gets success if people play down. The challenge is that's only true within stratifications of goals. When a person can't comprehend $300,000 months,
Yeah.
when they just can't comprehend it and it seems unattainable, there's no reason to do that. You give that person a person who's making 10,000 a month where they can wrap their head around it. When they've made the 10, they now start looking at those making 100. When they make 100, they start looking at those people making significantly more. And so from that perspective is why I believe that, I stopped doing it because it was causing more problems than I cared to introduce into the system. And there were enough people sharing their wealth that I didn't need to, you know.
Well,
So
it's the unreality of I can't even imagine a $300,000 month or $100,000 month, and people are like, oh my God, why? Yeah, it's just so we're talking apples and oranges. There's no way they can relate to me. It's like, but we all started here. We all started and celebrated that $100 month. We celebrated that $1,000 month, and you have to climb upward. Nobody starts with a $100,000 month, and if you do, can you replicate it? That's the question. And that, uh, I mean, with the revelation of traditional authors' advances, Emily St. John Mandel wrote Stations 11, which I really liked. I read it. I was like, hey, a traveling play group with a band, and it's like, hey, what? That's a great way to deal with the apocalypse. And there was a lot of irony in there. It's like, hey, this is a good book. Well, she got 210,000 as her first book. She got 210 grand as an advance on that book. And her next book, she got an $800,000 advance. So I'm like, oh my God. But she didn't deliver it for 5 years. And I look at that, it's like, okay, she made $1 million with 2 books over 5 years. And when I hit 5 years, I am this close to having made $1 million in my authoring career.
mhm.
Emily's got
As
2 books. I've got over 100. yes, my books make a lot less, and it's not quantity over quality or anything like that. It's just, hey, there are different ways to get there. And
Yes.
that second book is doing nowhere near as good as the first book did. It's not a sequel, it's just a completely different standalone book. And so what will her third advance look like? And this is, you can compare that way, but don't compare, because it's not. It's completely different world. It's just, hey, look at us. We're both at $1 million in 5 years. All right, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So the more I study, and generally speaking, I don't really talk to a lot of people. Craig gets it all the damn time, so he's probably, this guy's calling me again. So I'll call Craig and I'll do something like, hey man, so I was researching this particular book that's talking about trad 20 years ago. And I'm seeing where and how we got to this stage that we're doing now. But the more I'm realizing is that there's no effing way to become the one, because we're so stratified in what as readers we love to read and what's popular now and what's happening in society and is there politics. Every 4 years everything goes kaflooey. It's like the North and South poles switching every 4 years in America. And so you have people who were doing great for 3 years, all of a sudden they didn't, and God forbid they shouldn't have never been through a political cycle. Might have no idea that's what's causing the problem.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know 4 years later they're going to be like, we already know this. I've been dreading politics now for the last 6 months, and then of course COVID comes along and there are no politics. So take that, Mike Bray, if you're listening. um, and so, but just having a malleable ability to go, reading's been around for thousands of years. It's an entertainment form we understand. It is entertainment, so we are within the purview. Well, fiction is not nonfiction, but fiction is within the entertainment purview. So we're competing against movies and Mandalorian and Netflix and binging and this and that and the other. You can either get worried about that or realize that there's an opportunity to start marketing about the ability of checking out and checking into your brain. Help your brain through this crisis by unchecking anything that has to do with digital. No one's going
yeah,
to bug you while you read because it's not going to pop up.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just check to see what's going on, and find ways around it and be positive and focus on yourself. And I think Craig made a very important point, which is we don't typically mention it, but there are personalities where the competition is what helps drive them to be better. Just do it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
That's all.
And talking about competition, we also have supporters. And let me ask you this, Michael. When you wrote characters that didn't necessarily meet with some readers' expectations, and they send you notes saying, no, you really need to do this with that character in the next book. How do you respond to that?
You mean after screw you and blankety blank and those
Yeah,
things?
yeah, behind your screen, not writing it down. Yeah, yeah,
You come back and you're just like, I appreciate this. I've got to get to the next book to see what I'm going to write. But in general, I just, I have to appreciate, and I actually have to learn a couple of times, and I don't know if this is where you were heading with me, but is this the character everyone read, even if it's not the one I thought I wrote?
that is a great question to ask. I thought I wrote this character this way, and here's what I intend for this character. Because sometimes, I mean, if somebody's going to wants to get into your business that much,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to give them a plot spoiler. And then,
Mm-hmm.
but then now some people think they're your trusted agent, and they want to give more and more advice on every character. And this is where you just stop responding to them. But yes, that's where I was going with that.
Okay. Yeah, I have done that. I mean, there are times when to the best of my ability, be nice and say, I really apologize. I've got to hit to the next thing that I'm doing. And people will back off, I mean, in general. But for some right readers, remember they are introverts. You are their person on a pedestal, and you have now you are the sunshine, and they will grab a hold of that sunshine for all it is worth, as long as you allow them to do that.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we have to do that to some extent, because one thing I put in my books is, hey, here's my email address. Write me. I try to answer every email I get, and that's first time. I mean, I'm not going to be anybody's pen pal because I simply don't have time for that. But answering back saying, oh yeah, I see a different direction for that character, but thank you for your input, and always thank them for sending an email and engaging. And some people like, oh my God, that's fine that you're going a different direction. I got an email from you, and some people, they get so happy with that, and that's good enough. And that also is that dopamine hit of somebody excited about a character and willing to let them grow in a different direction than what they envisioned. Those are the biggest wins.
Yeah. We have a lot. I mean, emotionally, I appreciate it because Craig was, we reached out and go, did I miss a meeting? Just curious. And Craig's like, not sure what we're really going to talk about that has value, which I appreciated Craig mentioning that. We're not here just to chat. He and I chat enough during the week. And I'm pretty sure he's like, not seeing your face is better during the week than seeing your face. But, we had this discussion and it was on my heart in having it with him because I can drop shit on Craig. It's like he's been around me enough for enough years to be able to wade through the bullshit and go, okay, what about this?
It didn't work when you said, I'm thinking about romance, and I tried to talk you out of it, and you ignored me. And not that I have to be right, but you were wrong.
I now have teams of people who are just waiting to go, if you effing say romance, we're all going to stab you.
God.
And that's part of the fun of what we're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a great life. And if you're making $100 or $1,000 or whatever you're making, it is a great life and a great opportunity for us who have been built the way we are to create stories. That is who we are at a certain level, or we have an affinity to reading and we want to be involved in the process because we love to read. Well, how many people, they have no ability to write, but they can edit, or they can do covers, or they can reach out and be great on social media and be involved in an area they want to be involved in.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, a lot of the emails that I got in the beginning was, I'm in the hospital. Thank you for making this bearable. And those are emails that will last forever.
I've got the one that the lady, she sent me a note because I tried to send her a paperback, and she goes, I didn't get it. Can you send it to my son? I'm like, oh, absolutely. I'll send it to him. And she said, I'm going to the hospital for some tests today. And 2 days later, she was dead.
Yeah.
She didn't just have cancer. She had cancer so bad that when they finally went in to do the tests, she never left. And she was a fan, and I was trying to send her a book. And one of her last emails that she ever wrote was to me, just talking about the book. I love this series. I'd like to see it on paperback. I'm like, yeah, oh, man. And these kinds of things, they have that impact of the forever impact. People in hospice, I've got one of those emails. Your books literally keep me alive because I can't wait for the next one, and I am waiting for the next one. I'm staying alive just so I can read the next book. I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to write faster. I mean, yeah, it's kind of that's a heavy weight, but it's kind of a good one too that people really need to see. It gives them something to hang on to, and I think what we need to do is we focus on where do you want to go with your business. Make that a goal, understand the steps that lead to that goal, understand the support structure you need, a healthy support structure, whether it's peer approval or reader approval or family approval, or what will help drive you and keep you supported as you keep moving forward, because there are going to be ups, there are going to be downs. I remember I was cruising right along. I had a nice track record of making more and more money. And then all of a sudden I made $1,100 one month. And I'm like, what in the holy hell? Oh, that would have been October and November 2016. So I'm expecting to make nothing this October and November because of the election. There's going to be so much vitriol and anger out there. So I will refine my ads and it'll be like, escape the madness, read Martelle books. Oh, yeah. And if you can get to it, get an Anderle book, but start first with the Martelle books. But so it's just it's just a different approach. And plus I now have my readership will help insulate me from an $1,100 month. And It's only because I have a lot of more expenses, so I need more than $1,100 a month in revenue to just cover my expenses. That are, and this is another thing. It's yes, we're surrounded by good people. We have the support, but look at who we're supporting: cover artists, editors. Even if you're paying proofreaders, if you have an executive assistant, if you have somebody doing your emails for you, if you have just other people, because I paid that. We finally got locked up for that a scholarship that I paid for, the $2,500 to support the Western University Masters in Publishing. So that was to, I think, Mark Holt. And congratulations, he finished that the summer session, and now he moves on to working towards his master's. So good for him. I finally closed that loop today. But those, look at all these people we're supporting with stuff that we're making. And this is something else. So it's, yes, we have to be on our game. We need to be focused on what we're doing and not torn down by, oh my God, did you read about what this other author did? Let me answer with, do I care what this other author did unless it really affects my business? And if the answer is no, then I'm moving forward. I don't need this. And no gossip talk and none of that bullshit that detracts from your business is allowed on 20 books to 50K. So it is your refuge for if you want to come over and
Learned.
know.
I mean, because we've had people in 20 books, and I'll ditch it because it's really not part of emotions, other than the fact that it's very emotional, right? When people's emotions get riled up, good or bad, and they go after the areas that they can amplify their voice, we are that place for a lot of people, and we shut that stuff down, and they're mad at us.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like our intent was ever, don't be a dick, don't sell your stuff. Those are the basic two rules that started us. And it's been modified slightly to clarify what's going on. But if it's not about business, it's not getting on here.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, we're all wordsmiths. We understand when someone's trying to wordsmith their way into outside of the boundaries and get inside the rules. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. We got a good team of admins keeping that on the straight and narrow.
Yes. Thank God.
In any case, 67 minutes. So
Yes.
it's been a good thing. We didn't lose connectivity. Internet is cranking today. They've done some work on one of the towers. That's why I had some issues. Now I think we're back up and
Yeah, you've been great.
And going well. I'm always great, man.
Well, sometimes I appreciated the towers being screwed up.
Then Michael didn't have to go solo today for any extended periods of time.
Yeah,
But
it's not
there
my
we go.
personality to do that.
We hope that this episode of the C&M show brought you
Just
not
to
any
think about it.
revelations, but just maybe some peace of mind, and help you better understand what you're going through as you're climbing your mountain. Because success, as you become more and more successful, you want more and more success. It's just human nature, and don't let that destroy you. There are people who say, don't forget where you came from. That's also an important thing to remember, that I started here. It's like it would be like us saying, hey, I'm not talking to anybody who's not having a $10,000 month. And that's not what we do, because everybody starts somewhere. We're all in this together. The rising tide it includes people who make zero in a month, or it includes people who are making 300,000 a month. We're all going up together, because we're learning about this thing called self-publishing. Because as Michael said earlier, something that we were holding dear, hey, this works 5 months ago, it may not work today. So let's learn what is working, and let's take advantage and move on and find the next thing that works, and write great books that the readers can't put down. That's the biggest thing you can do, is you starts with a great book.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, everyone, for giving us your time, giving us your consideration, and just share the word. Encourage somebody else. And as someone had mentioned here, they might not be able to push it, but for themselves. But when they understand that they can hire someone and help them, that helps motivate them. So do look at that. And I'm blessed to be able to even have enough wisdom to share with one person, much less hundreds or thousands. So I take that, and I'm humbled by it myself. All right, folks.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming on board with us. We will talk to you later.
Bye-bye.